people come from all walks of life. They all have lives they lead. Any and all are welcome here to come and chat with me.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the show. Well, as you can see, my guest is here with me, DJ Pohl. Hi, DJ.
Hi, Nancy.
DJ is a labor leader, but you're going to find out that she's much more than that. So I want to ask you, first of all, that I know you have a bachelor's degree for criminal justice, right?
Yes, that's right.
So what made you decide to take that as opposed to anything else?
That route?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, it's a great question. My university experience and degree is one that I cherish really well. It took me some time to get there. It took me 6.5 years to complete my degree program, but I was working full time and managed to graduate without any student loans or debts.
Nice.
So that feels really good. And when I first started going to university, I wasn't sure which direction I wanted to go in. I started off in science, biology. I did astronomy and psychology. I went to business. I was a little bit all over the map. Kinesiology, I tried absolutely everything. I really enjoyed studying philosophy for sure. And eventually I settled on criminal justice as was going to be my focus and my major of my degree. So it certainly took some time to get there, but and then the reasons that I enjoyed and feel passionate about criminal justice at the end of that degree is not the same reason why I started or decided I liked it or even wanted it as a major to start out with. Initially, I felt drawn to it as it seemed to make logical sense to me, and that I could, on paper, we're looking at the laws and what it means to pursue justice, and you could follow that in a linear pattern. But soon after initiating that, really getting into the studies and also working in the criminal justice field, you of course learn that is absolutely not the case. There are lots of gray areas, and things aren't always as crystal clear as you might expect or they may read in a textbook. And that's why I really love criminal justice, and that pursuit of justice has stuck with me in many facets of my life. But it was, one of the reasons that I really enjoyed that degree program at the University of Fraser Valley. Has a wonderful criminal justice program. Lots of local leaders here in Chilliwack have come out of that program, and some great professors and involved in it. And from starting my university career just wanting to play soccer, and school was secondary, to ending that with potentially the interest in going to law school and doing all kinds of academic things was quite the journey, and I changed a lot, and I cherish that program and degree and experience. It's helped develop me to who I am.
That's awesome. Now I know you were involved with the Chilliwack Restorative Justice, right?
Yes.
And that's where you no longer do that. Is that correct?
That's correct. I finished my last term on the Chilliwack Restorative Justice Board of Directors in 2019.
Okay.
And I was with that organization for about 10 years. Around the same time I was finishing up my degree program, I was already working in the criminal justice field locally, but I wanted an opportunity to give back to the community and get involved and utilize my education in a different and additional way than what I was already doing professionally. So I started volunteering with Chilliwack Restorative Justice, was a facilitator for their community accountability panels, as well as the community justice forums, which are absolutely fantastic programs in the way of our ability and capacity to address harm and repair it and move on from it, and has great rates, results amongst recidivism rates, and fantastic program. Shortly after signing up to volunteer, I was recruited to the board of directors. Certainly one of the youngest, or at the time, the youngest person on the board for sure, bringing a bit of a volunteer specifically perspective, but younger perspective in the community as well. One of my first experiences on a board, so working with people with different perspectives from different backgrounds, lots of people in policing involved, and regular community members, retired folks, and so lots of different perspectives there, and learned a lot from that board experience, and was even the chair of the board for at least one term, or a little more than a term. And after 10 years with an organization in a volunteer capacity, all of that knowledge and experience is fully retained, and sometimes, you know, creating space for it to continue to grow and succeed in the community is what that looks like. But I will always think fondly of my time with restorative justice, and it's a program I feel very passionately about and I care about. It's so important in our community to be able to address not just crime, but behavior that's maybe harmful or divisive or polarizing, from a place of compassion and empathy and understanding, and really getting to the root issue of, you know, why some of this conflict is maybe happening, and how do we address it. So applying those values and principles to all the things I do in my life, but especially community involvement, is incredibly important. And if you don't know about the organization, check them out, sign up to volunteer if you'd like. There's some great folks still on the board, and a new executive director, and they have a bike auction sale that they converted to online to raise funds for the program. So check it out if you need a bicycle as well.
Yeah, you just go look, search them. Just you'll find them easy enough, whether it's in the phone book. Do people still use the phone book, or Google them? Chilliwack Restorative Justice. When I know about the Chilliwack Restorative Justice is like very limited. I believe that, let's just say a young person is caught shoplifting. So rather than getting a record, they're given an option, right, to perhaps do some volunteer time somewhere. I'm not quite sure how that all works, but is that one of the things that happens?
Yes, no, absolutely. You're totally correct in that. In Restorative Justice as an organization, will get referrals from a number of locations and other partners or organizations to deal with a situation, whether it be a crime or conflict or some sort of harm that was caused. A lot of the files we get are, theft under files that are referrals directly from loss prevention officers, where for someone who doesn't have a criminal record and meets the criteria to receive a referral to a alternative measures or diversion program. So it's separate from the formal court process, which can sometimes be quite lengthy and cause additional harm or conflict on the community or the individual. And the whole point is to address the harm, and as a community support each other to be productive, positive, contributing members of our community, especially for youth and young people who are maybe making a mistake and they're willing to take responsibility for that. This program is so powerful in that you have the opportunity to really talk about that specific circumstance and person's circumstances as to why that happened. What kind of pressures are they facing? Crime very often, doesn't happen for simply the sake of crime happening. It's happening due to financial constraints, mental health issues, addiction. There's everyone's circumstances are going to be very different. And so having the ability to have the specific underlying reasons addressed through this program, and then, like you mentioned, giving back to the community is often part of the resolution. So there's a resolution agreement that gets worked out between the individual and the organization, with if there was a specific victim or business, sometimes as a victim, to make a recommendation, ask for restitution, or even just allow an opportunity to have that impact
Yes.
heard is the opportunity there. And then the resolution agreement addresses that and fully resolves the harm that was caused. And once that is completed by that person, it often includes community work service hours, for example. So giving back to the community, it gets returned or closed out as completed, and that person has, you know, sometimes built some really great community supports and engagement, and doesn't have a criminal record on the other end of it.
Exactly. I think that's so important for young people, and because they don't always think it through. Like you said, you know, the reasons are varied, right? Anyway, we'll move along because there's so much there's so much involved that you're with. You're currently Canadian Labor of Congress. What is that about?
Yeah, so the Canadian Labor Congress is the national body of labor in this country. So there's a number of mechanisms there. National unions are affiliated to the CLC, or Canadian Labor Congress. And then there's local bodies that are called labor councils, which are affiliated chartered bodies of the CLC. I'm currently the president of the Fraser Valley Labor Council, and then the BC Federation of Labor is the provincial body of labor where our local provincial unions are affiliated to. So there's interaction with the labor movement on that level as well. And then my specific union involvement is with BCGU, which is the BC General Employees Union. Provincially, where I work in direct government. So I'm a part of that union, and then I have a number of elected roles within BCGU. I'm the local chairperson representing administrative staff in the Fraser Valley, and then a delegate to the Labor Council, where I'm also the president there. And as part of that, also represent labor councils across the province on the BC Federation of Labor Executive, where I'm also engaged in the climate change working group for the province, which brings together labor organizations from across the province to collectively strategize on climate and environmental issues from the labor movement, as well as provide advice and input and feedback and direction to some of the labor voices who sit on the Climate Solutions Advisory Council to the Premier, which I was appointed originally in 2017 and reappointed in 2019. We're appointed as individuals, but everyone on that advisory council represents a vast sector of our province, whether it be labor, youth, Indigenous communities, local government, business, industry, academics, economics, and so the voices at that table are vast and very different. It's been very challenging work, but especially during COVID-19 and any kind of crossover in terms of environmental and climate change impacts, as well as the COVID-19 pandemic, and how we recover from that is a very timely, important discussion that both the labor movement and the Climate Solutions Council is working on. So the labor movement part of my activism and elected positions have had me representing workers locally, provincially, as well as nationally through the CLC as the highest governing body of labor across the country, which has provided some international opportunities. I just completed the Harvard Trade Union program at Harvard University, which was a great experience as well. And that pursuit of justice for working people and vulnerable populations as well through the labor movement and what it represents in terms of inclusivity and diversity and making space for voices. It just, going back to my education experience and why I liked criminal justice and that pursuit of justice, it translates into, environmental justice, social justice, justice for workers and working people and vulnerable populations. So thank you for the question about my labor activism in my very long answer.
Well, it is involved. It's an involved process, and I understand that. Now, if you would take a little time to explain the link between the labor union and the environment, the climate change environment, like a little bit more clarification for me, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a great question because the labor movement as a whole represents working people who work in all different types of work, jobs and careers, and it might be, you know, in industry, it might be in fossil fuel industry, and you know, pipe fitters and labor organizations, as well as union members themselves, have interests and are impacted by environmental changes and climate change every day. And if there is going to be any kind of change or disruption to a workforce that disrupts work for working people, whether that be a transition to a renewable, sustainable energy source, workers have to be at that table and utilizing their voice in order to ensure that the result and they're protected, and that the result is one of a positive one in terms of being able to have a sustainable, reliable job and career that everyone deserves to have in their community and is supported by that. So a just transition is something, a phrase we often use in the labor movement, discussed for many years around what does that mean and how do you define that? But ultimately ensuring that workers are at the table and utilizing their voice. If we're going to talk about or, you know, take a stance on a specific project or an environmental issue, we absolutely have to be talking to the workers who might be impacted by it, as well as the community and the community members and people disproportionately impacted by climate change as well. So the labor movement has come a long way in our ability to have these discussions and have them productively and bring voices to the table, and in a way that isn't ever attacking someone's livelihood. And I've really enjoyed my experience advocating for that. I feel very strongly and passionately about environmental and climate change issues locally, nationally, and internationally, as this isn't just a local issue. There's many pieces at play there, and it is urgent.
Right.
Absolutely. So, you know, coming a long way from just moving past that jobs versus the environment narrative and into an era where those things are tied in a way that is productive, that includes voices from working people in what it looks like, is really great to see. There's still lots of work to do. There's always work to do, but it's going very well. And that was one of my first things that I put my hand up for in the union as something that I truly cared about and felt passionate about was, you know, how can my union get involved in this? And BCGU has been a leader talking about climate change and environmental issues for years, and I've been honored and proud to be a part of that.
Very good. Yeah. What about now? Did we mention this BC Prosecution Service?
Yes, that is my full-time day job.
Okay, so what do you do? What don't you do? I shouldn't be asking that question, I think.
So at the Prosecution Service, I provide administrative support for the Crown Counsel prosecutions in provincial court.
Oh, is that right? Okay, that's really interesting. Okay, so now what have we touched on? We talked about this what you're doing currently. Oh, you were once a server.
Serving experience and bartending experience is very important for, you know, well-rounded folks, and certainly help pay for university. And
Now, human resources interviewer.
Oh yeah.
Tell me about that.
That was way back in the day, while also doing my degree at UFE. This was a company that was hired by clients to do background checks on people that they were looking at hiring. So that job would check references for people that they listed, verify education, run criminal record checks as a third party hired by the company as part of their hiring process. It was interesting work as well. I wasn't there long, but certainly lots of interesting dynamics around protecting people's privacy and what that looks like. And that was part of what I worked on during my criminal justice degree, especially at that organization as well.
Very good. Yeah. You were a receptionist. Oh, Chilliwack Crown Council receptionist, not just any receptionist, people.
That was where I started at the Crown office almost 14 years ago.
Legal assistant. Oh, major trial legal assistant. Now that must have been fascinating.
Yes.
Tell me about that a little bit.
Yeah, so those are the kind of the large and complex prosecutions. So the major crime files in the community.
Very good. Yeah. Now I'm just going to go to you were a community. You received a Community Hero Award.
I did.
For Chilliwack Hope, and that was just last year.
Yes.
So how did that come about?
Well, this was a program that the current sitting member of Parliament, Mark Strahl, put in place for a peer nominated program to recognize folks going above and beyond during the COVID-19 pandemic to show leadership and support the community. And I received a nomination from someone in the community.
Very nice. That's really great. Now I know also, just to go totally off topic, that you like to roller skate. You belong to the roller derby.
Yes.
Right? So how did that happen? Oh, that's really interesting. I'm supposed to be looking there. I keep forgetting where I'm supposed to look.
Oh, we're having a conversation and they're just joining us. Yeah, no, that's great. NWO Roller Derby is the team that I skate for. Well, we haven't been skating since COVID-19 at all. I played soccer for 15 years of my life and then just kind of on a whim decided I would try roller derby. I heard there were some teams starting up in the community and didn't know how to roller skate at all. Showed up, loved it. It definitely is a very productive, positive, and appropriate outlet.
Appropriate how?
Well, it's a full contact sport, and so there is, the ability to express yourself, your personality, as well as physical athleticism, but also the strategy involved in roller derby as a sport in general. It's there's constant offensive and defensive strategy going on simultaneously on the track. It's fast-paced. Full contact, did I mention that?
Yes, you did.
A very important part of that. But roller derby as well is a community. It's a very vast, diverse, inclusive community that is very welcoming and it is supportive and it supports everyone on how you do express yourself. And we support each other, and it's been an amazing community to be a part of here in Chilliwack. Hey NWO, how you doing? They'll be happy to hear that. Not much skating during COVID, but that community support still exists where we still stay in contact with each other. Most roller derby organizations are actually registered under the Society Act as not-for-profit organizations. So there's a board of directors, and it functions in a way that is democratic. And the skaters who are members of the organization make the decisions on what that means. And that usually creates an amazing community that is doing great things outside of that roller derby bubble as well.
Right. Yeah. Well, before we get to this one last subject, is there anything that we've missed that you wanted to bring up?
I don't think so.
Okay,
This
great.
is a great interview. We covered a lot of topics.
I think we covered a lot of things.
Yeah,
So you have such a fascinating, like I used your resume. I usually ask people for a bio.
Yeah.
Well, you did send, but I used your resume because it was so fascinating. And I just wanted to know how a young person got so much stuff in, it just boggles my mind a little bit.
Some chronic volunteering and volunteerism for sure, but rooted in just deeply caring about my community and feeling passionate and engaged and always looking to challenge myself and grow and give back to the community however I can.
Now I heard there was an announcement this morning coming from you. You want to share what that was?
Sure, I would love to. Nancy Guitar on Small Talk gets the first public scoop on this very exciting announcement. I am honored and excited to be your NDP candidate for the Chilliwack Hope riding in the upcoming federal election. It hasn't been called yet, so we're not sure exactly when that's coming. It could be soon. It could be next week. But given where I am in my personal growth and engagement in the community with the skills and my capacity to bring voices together and create space for voices that need to be heard, I think I have something to offer and contribute. Representing members of Chilliwack Hope in the House of Commons in Ottawa, I want to bring that fight for justice to Ottawa for everyday people here in the community. And I thanks for having me on to talk about that and make that announcement. And I'm really looking forward to hearing what the issues of our community members want to talk about and how we want to strategize to address the issues that we're facing and have representation that is meaningful for everyone and work towards improving the lives of everyone in our community. And thank you for having me on and check out the platform, contact me with any questions. Happy to have discussions. Really looking forward to hearing from you and talking about the issues.
And I hope after listening to her speak today, her interview, that you realized how qualified she is. I really believe that. You have a lot to give. You are a strategist, as you talked about, just even from the roller derby part of being able to strategize. You think on your feet, which are all of the things that are necessary, right? And your involvement again with the community and willing to listen and hear people's voices. I think it's awesome. And so I appreciate you talking to me about it. It's really great.
Thanks for having me on, Nancy.
For sure. Thank you for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed listening to DJ. She really is a person that puts herself out there. It's not a lot of BS. I think straightforward. And that's what we need in politics, is somebody who's willing to talk straight out. Oh, and I just want to say happy 40th birthday to my daughter, Jamie.
Happy birthday, Jamie.
Hope you watch the show again next time. Peace out, everyone.
Bye.
You can't see me. I got to stand up. Peace out.
A sense of community, Chilliwack's a place to be. A sense of community when you're free. Rolling through the mountains, rolling through the valley, rolling through paradise with me. It's multicultural, you're sure to see it all. Chilliwack's the place to be, you'll see. Come party in the park, go dancing after dark. Chilliwack's the place to be, you'll see.